Four, three, two, one. Hi, I'm John Miglosh for the International Society for Strategic Marketing and the Wisconsin DMA. I'm going to cover the waterfront a bit, but first I'd like to show you a really nice commercial from Space Savers.
I've actually seen Father Christmas before. I saw him in real life. He has a big beard, and Santa's footprint was about 10 meters long. And he had the red hat. He has everything red. And he had his face red.
Never seen Santa? Should have gone to Space Savers.
I've actually
Absolutely
seen
right. Okay, that worked pretty well. I hope you heard that. So I got to thinking, well, how is it fair that Santa can be portrayed as a white bearded guy, old white guy, when some stories say he punched Arius in the nose, but none of the pictures of him, none of his icons, and of course those were from hundreds of years later probably, but none of his icons look at all like St. Nick. So even though he is St. Nick, so it's a fiction. And there's a lot of fiction in the world. And so I'd like to move over to this article that ad industry's social inclusion strategies are not working. Now, I am mixed about this. Scott Adams, in his book, which is in my bag over there, How You Can Be Terrible at Everything and Still Win Big or something, talks about how he worked for a utility company, like a phone company, and got a letter one day basically saying, you're never going to be promoted anymore because we have a diversity program and you're white and old. And so he went to work for a bank, or I think I have those in reverse order. And a couple of years went by and he was doing pretty well. And then he got another letter saying basically, you can quit when you want. We won't fire you, but you're not getting any more promotions. Now, to me, there seems to be a bit of injustice there because, it was not performance-based at all. It just said you don't have the requisite gender or skin color to keep getting promoted. Now, there may be a sense of reparations, although I have a problem with reparations. I mean, with multi-generational reparations, because while there was slavery in America, my relatives were on a mountain in Austria or somewhere, and I'm sure they were not. It just wasn't on the radar for them. They were probably coming out of being serfs in the Middle Ages. So I feel like Europe probably owes me reparations, but I'm not going to worry about it. And I think if we build our diversity on that, we might run into trouble. But anyway, I thought you'd enjoy this data-based view of the ad agency world, especially in England. And what it said is that the top leaders of the ad agency world 31% went to private education. Now, I went to a prep school for a couple of years and a Catholic school for a couple of years. I don't know if that counts. But they said it's way above the national average. Now, you can play with these numbers so easily because they were talking about, what are they talking about? The average, how many people average, there's more college graduates in marketing than there is in the general population? Well, yeah, that's true. You kind of need, I do advanced analytical statistics, and it helped to have a little math under your belt before you tried to start. I'm not saying that you have to, and if you had the right outfit or the right background, you could do marketing anytime you want. Now, I was impressed with my LinkedIn list because I think it's women are much more highly represented now than they were when I started in marketing. I'll say that. And I think there's a reason. I hope there is, which we'll get into in a minute. On ethnicity, they said, actually, ad agencies were slightly higher than the national average. Probably because they sent out these letters, which still doesn't seem quite right to me. And we'll get on to what seems right to me I think that was all I highlighted. And it talked about how you could improve your hiring strategy. And we went over here to Digital Marketing Asia. You know, it's funny because all of these things are from the DMA news desk. And I'm thinking to myself, gee, that DMA, which used to mean the Direct Marketing Association, I thought, gee, that DMA is really doing a lot better at getting news and getting their act together. No, it's the digital media. It's Digital Marketing Asia, DMA. And as you can see, I value diversity of ideas. I value diversity of sources, which to me matters more than the color of the skin of the person that wrote it. And that's a problem, I think, in a lot of this diversity, is that as an Orthodox Christian, I represent a very, very small minority in the United States, just a tiny little sliver. And so, you know, and in many countries, my minority was wiped out, you know, because they just killed them all. They didn't like that kind of diversity. Diversity is a kind of a two-edged sword. And a lot of times, if we're talking about gender and race, we're not talking about diversity of ideas, which I think is important. And in this article, it said, the companies in the top quartile for racial and ethnic diversity are 35% more likely to have financial returns above their respective national industry medians. Now, of course, as a stats guy, I can tell you that might be flipped around. Very likely is. Very likely it's the companies that make a lot of money that can afford diversity of this sort. Because this diversity does not necessarily get you any diversity of ideas, as we find out on Twitter. And when someone comes along who doesn't fit the profile, they can get banned pretty fast. And that happened last week, but we won't talk about that. So I would argue that diversity of ideas is a much more powerful idea. And it used to be the idea of the university, but I think the university has generally rejected that and decided that they need diversity of racial and ethnicity rather than diversity of ideas. It's very, very dangerous. It's especially dangerous when we start sending out letters saying you're no longer welcome. And one of the things it says is, you know, get buy-in from CEO. Studies have shown, I always like when a sentence starts like this. Studies have shown that a more heterogeneous organization produces more diverse ideas. That sounds like complete baloney to me. I think unless you tell me what heterogeneous means, and if you can even say it, I think I did pretty well to say it, right? I think ideas are important. But, you know, I'm going to give you a different model that I think is really the answer to this. Over here, a really great article. My success is my team's success. Now we're getting closer to the germ of the issue in diversity. Okay? And this wonderful lady, I can't pronounce her name, I'm very sorry about that. This wonderful lady talks about her struggles in Japan. And they said, how did you do it? How did you get to be a CMO at Panasonic? And she said, hard work and results are vital. And I work as part of a team. Those three things are crucial. That's what we need in diversity thinking. Hard work, focus on results, and working as part of a team. What do I mean? Well, she said, we wanted to update our business cards, for example. Panasonic hadn't changed its business cards for 35 years, and they were really into a big company named Little Teeny Person's Name. Okay, and she wanted, and her team wanted to elevate the individual. Okay, they said it would take years. They had hundreds of rules around a business card design, and finally they said sometimes marketing needs to use a bulldozer. I'm a very big advocate for Bulldozer, especially when it's measurable. Now in this case, it's not. Okay, but that's why I believe direct marketing is a stronger picture of diversity. Why? Because you can win no matter what your race, color, creed, anything. You need to get results in direct marketing. And it's if we look at team sports, we see a huge diversity and overrepresentation of blacks, I think, at least in basketball. You know, I'm not sure why. You know, baseball is beautiful because we get people from Japan, we got people from China, India. They had a couple of guys come play, a lot Hispanic. You know, and yet white kids can still play too. And you don't sense that they have a trouble with that. Why? Because your batting average is what your batting average is. Now in direct marketing, we got the same thing. And so here I come out of college with a with a master's in philosophy. I know nothing about marketing, and yet I understand testing. Testing quantifies results, illustrates causal variables, and cuts through this whole idea that we need to have multicolored in order to get multiple diversity. This is a little bit radical. I welcome your comments. Love to hear from you. Let's get diversity of ideas. Like and share.